Yo guys, just wanted to mention right before we start this episode, if you don't feel like listening to us all the way through on YouTube, you can download us on iTunes or go right over to our site and get the file itself. We know listening to it might be a little different than visualizing, but we appreciate all your support.
Yeah. So if you don't want to watch it here, make sure you watch it somewhere so we can get our 1400ths of a cent.
Or listen.
Or that. Yeah, enjoy the content.
Fuck Jim. Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with Drink a Beer and Play a Game. Welcome to another episode of the Power Hour.
Holy God, am I tired. Fuck. I also think I'm sick. So, this is going to be a great one for me.
Don't be getting me sick, boy.
Actually, I think I know how I got sick, and we'll get into that soon.
Her name was Delilah. Oh, wait, different thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Oops.
All right, well, starting right off the bat, we have a surprise. Jim brought the beer this time. And you know what?
Shocker.
It wasn't even Keystone. Jim, what'd you bring?
I brought the Nihilist Russian Imperial Stout. So it is a bottle-conditioned, barrel-aged, ale-aged in whiskey barrels from the Sly Fox Brewing Company of Pottstown, Pennsylvania. It comes in at a nice beefy 80 IBUs, and I can't find an ABV on here. So I don't even know how much goddamn alcohol is in here.
Let me see, because you always fuck that up.
I do not fuck that up.
You always fuck it up.
Fake news. You also might hear a slight hum, and we apologize for that, but it's ridiculously hot today, so.
Yeah, AC's running high. Jim, didn't I buy you this?
You probably did.
It's the only reason why Jim had a good beer.
Probably been sitting in my fridge for like a year for the perfect time.
I've had the Nihilist Stout. Russian Imperials are probably my first, if not second, favorite type of beer. So if you like really strong stouts, this is perfect. Of course, if you're someone who doesn't like the barrel-aged and the whiskey infused with the oak, you might not like it as much. It's very strong. It's a sipping beer. So unlike other podcasts where we'll try a couple, this is probably going to be the only one we try today.
Yeah. I mean, I went and took a little pee-pee trip before we started recording, and I come down and the whole basement smelled like this beer just from 2 glasses being poured. So
yeah,
aroma for days. Holy crap.
Delicious beer, though. Sly Fox, this might be your best creation. So
dark as shit, too. Can't see anything through it.
Yeah. Well, it's a stout, so.
Well, I mean,
you're not going to get a crystal clear stout, Jim.
I don't know. It depends on whatever crap stout that... Keystone, make a stout. Make it crystal clear.
So, I know we typically start with a beer thing, but...
Just going to skip into it?
I think we'll go right into the big topic, and the one that will probably dominate a good chunk of this podcast. Jim and I, for the first time ever, actually went to a gaming expo.
Finally.
It was Too Many Games in Greater Oaks Expo Center.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'll let you kind of start it off, but what'd you think of it?
So, basically, it's the 4th or 5th year I think this convention's been running now. And when you first walk in there, it's like sensory overload. When you first go through the doors, like, we already saw people lined up for one of the panels, and there were 3 panel rooms, and they had them going round the clock each day. And on the one side was a gigantic arcade with arcade machines, console setup, different tournaments going on. So I think the day we were there, they were having like a 2-day Tetris tournament, a Mario Kart 64 tournament, which we didn't stick around long enough for, a Tecmo Bowl tournament. So, and they also had like almost like gigantic monitor setup for Overwatch. That was going on the whole time, too. And there were, like, shitloads of people playing on that. There was, like, a professional announcer team in the one corner. So I'm sure this was being broadcasted somewhere. I don't really follow that shit, but... And then you had the main floor, which had all the YouTubers, all the vendors, just games everywhere. There really were too many games, weren't there?
I'd say there were an adequate amount of games.
Yeah.
Now,
could be said.
To Jim's point, never being there, we didn't really know what to expect.
We did not plan accordingly.
Interesting. I think in my heart expected more cosplay than there was. There was a lot, don't get me wrong. But
there was a cosplay competition, too.
And there was a cosplay, did you already say the wrestling match?
No, I did not.
Yeah, they had a wrestling ring, and they had a whole event, which actually happened right when Jim and I got there.
That was pretty cool.
So it was interesting. The final match was Mega Man versus Luigi. So that would, we didn't stay too much for that, but it had a nice crowd around it and it had some good pops. So it's nice they threw all that in there. I think it was $35 for the ticket, not including tax.
Yeah.
So for just the day pass, the really basic level, it wasn't terrible. And I think the best thing for us, and one of the number one reasons we want to go back, is we enjoyed just getting to see like who all's there. We will get into in a minute what we actually bought at the expo. But we did run into our buddy Dan from Console Wars. Obviously, that's a channel if you don't know about, you should go follow immediately. You can see on the side of our channel link, they're here. But he's a great guy. We already did a power hour with him. We can't wait to do it again. And I think that's something, if we got to know a few other people, the networking of just meeting other YouTubers and just general gamers who are as nerdy as us, that's the real benefit of things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to name some of the people who were there, there's RGT85, I think that's his name. Norm the Gaming Historian, the Game Chasers, they were all kind of in one spot together. Pat the NES Punk and Ian were there. James Rolfe was there. When we were there, Mike Matei wasn't, so I think he was there for a bit Friday and maybe Sunday.
Yeah, he was there Sunday. Unfortunately, we missed him. He was nice enough to do an interview with us.
Like the first year of our site.
Yeah, so we were hoping to see him in person, but yeah, I think general, meeting people, it's funny.
Kid Icarus was like walking around.
Yeah, but it's funny because obviously James Rolfe, AVGN, he was the biggest draw. Like, of everyone there, he had his own special area designated for a line that you had to get into, where we got to meet a guy who, it was a good networking experience for us, I'll say that. But, yeah,
he had like a half-hour wait of a line.
The nerd was exactly what you expect. Super nice, super humble, just, willing to just say, hey, how you doing, thanks, and it was just in a little bit of time we were there. The number of people coming up, giving him games, like, hey, I just wanted to see this, add to your collection.
Yeah, he had this gigantic, printout of stuff, and he would be, flipping through every time. People were generous as shit with that guy.
And then,
And he would, did pictures, free of charge. He didn't care.
And then we stopped by, Pat and Ian is really cool. We got to talk to him after the fact. We talked with him a little bit more on Twitter. Fingers crossed we may actually snag him for a future interview on Power Hour.
Hopefully.
But yeah, no, he's super cool, super chill dude. Would have loved to grab a beer with him, just didn't get the chance.
Yeah, we got there too early.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing we learned, when we got there, it was actually funny because there's a car set up and there were people in tailgate chairs with a cooler.
Yeah.
They're like, someone's fucking tailgating this.
Yeah, we should.
And also, why didn't we think of this? We're the beer guys.
Yeah, we got there like Jim said, super strangely early.
Like noon.
Next time we go, we'll probably go 2 or 3-ish.
Even later.
And
might get a hotel room.
And get nice and drunk before, get a hotel room, get drunk after with some of the other people there.
That's what Dan did. He was already smashed by the time he got to the floor.
But yeah, no, it's a cool experience, and for anyone that is a fan of these YouTubers or a fan of just trying to get good deals on games, it's a good place to go. I'd say overall.
And there's a lot of stuff. Sorry to cut you off, but if you're looking for just everything, I didn't really see that much. Say of the computer consoles or Atari ST or Commodore, shit like that. I wasn't really looking for it either, but weren't too many vendors with that. What?
There was one console there you could have gotten, but you didn't.
Actually, there were 2, and one I have a lot of remorse about. So
let's just get into, as far as buying stuff, one thing I will say before we show you what we did get, it was interesting. All the booths that were near the Video Game Nerd were more expensive. Not by a huge margin.
But $5 to $10 more.
Yeah, so Contra 3, that could have gone for as low as 40, and maybe you'll see that in a second. But near James, it was 45 to 50. So it was little touches like that I just kept recognizing. I'm like, it's smart, that's where the biggest foot traffic is. So if you went on the opposite side where James wasn't, that's probably where you'll find your biggest deals. And I also noticed a lot of bargaining with the vendors. Don't ever be a dick and if you see something for 20, be like, I'll give you 5. But if you say I'll give you 18 or something, most of the people seem to be very flexible and we're just willing to work out a deal because no one's trying to screw anyone there. So do your research, but be respectful when you offer a price.
Yeah, and if you have games in mind, I would recommend going on eBay and Amazon and seeing what the general going prices are because you will, like Brian said, you're going to see different prices for the same game at different tables. So you're going to have to keep an eye out. And also, there was a lot of repo games being sold. So you have the obvious ones like Mega Man Wily Wars and Alien Soldier for like a North American console. So you have that, but then you also have the more expensive games that they're selling for $30, and you're going, oh, okay, so this must be a reproduction.
Yeah.
So you got to be a little careful there. Know what you're getting into, and really, it's a patience game because look at every single table. If you see a game, walk around the entire thing a couple times until you find it and find the best deal.
Yep. And
and speaking of the consoles,
go ahead.
they make all the goddamn noise. So we know I talk about the Vectrex a lot. There were actually a few Vectrexes there. And at one point, there was one for what we thought was going to be $200. And Brian was like, hey, Jim, did you buy it?
Well, you can't
Jim,
talk that much shit about the Vector, or talk about how great it is and then not buy it. So I guess you proved that Daddy was right, and that it's not that great of a console.
No,
it's not
if it wasn't actually $265, and they are notorious for being, prone to breaking.
So bad, like I've said.
Not bad, just old.
I'm sorry, if you
not everyone takes care of things.
If you have something that breaks, what's the definite? You wouldn't say that's a good thing, would you?
Well, of course.
So Daddy's right.
You love the 360 too. That thing was prone to breaking.
Listen,
you had one that did die.
Just shine my shoes.
God damn it. And yeah, so there was a couple of them, and like the one we were talking about turned out to be like 265, and I was like, okay, screw that. And then there was like one that was like almost new in box for 600 some.
Yeah.
And the other console that I do kind of regret not going for is a Magnavox Odyssey 2 that was in the box for 40. And that's a little bit high for what it could go for in eBay, but I also didn't take into account the convenience of just being able to walk home with it right then instead of dealing with shipping or all that other crap.
And it could sit right on your shelf next to all your other systems.
Don't you goddamn dare, you son of a bitch. We would be reviewing Casey's Crazy Chase and all that shit. And Casey Munchkin and all of it.
All right, so I'll start with what I've actually bought. I didn't buy as much. I'm much more selective than some.
I bought 5 games.
You needed maybe one of them, and you'll play maybe 2.
I will play. One I can't play.
Listen, that right there, that statement was enough. But I'm more economical in terms of what I'm willing to buy and the reasons. Surprisingly enough, I did get actually a lot of art, and I know it probably doesn't make for the greatest footage, and if you are listening to this on iTunes, I apologize because you can't see it, but I got this painting or picture. It's the Splatterhouse. I'm trying to get the goddamn light out there. Awesome picture of Rick fucking up all those things. And the rest, I won't go one by one, but in this style of design, there was a bunch of different horror icons. So I got him, Jason, Michael Myers, and the killer clowns from outer space. So
yeah, what did Dan buy? He bought a
he bought from the same place I did, and it's
he bought Solid Snake, right?
Yes,
it was like one of those
Square Painter. I think that's their name, and we'll double check on that. But their art was great, and as you saw from my picture, but they had these giant like I can't even say full canvas, but done in a pixelated manner. Is the best way I can describe it. We saw a Streets of Rage thing,
which I was really tempted to until they said $300.
Yeah, and we don't make that kind of money. So, but the only game I did buy is this, and it's one that I'm embarrassed enough that I had never actually beat. But The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past for Super NES. And while I was there, because James AVGN was there, and he always talks about it, I had him sign it. I figured it was fitting because hearing him talk about it made me want to play it so much more, and it drove my decision to go out and buy it. I got it for $32. I don't really care if it was a great price or not. I think that's a reasonable price for
fair.
it.
Yeah.
So the fact that I got signed by him, that's an added bonus. So yeah, those were my purchases. Very simple. I was looking a lot for horror games or horror toys or anything horror related.
Right, you had like 7 chances to buy a haunted house, and you never did it.
They didn't have it in box for a reasonable price.
Yeah, they didn't have any of the... I was looking for goddamn River Raid for every goddamn vendor I looked through. No one had it for the Intellivision or the Atari 800. God damn it.
Yeah, so...
Kept trying. Or just in box. If I found it in box, that I already owned, I probably would have bought it.
Yeah. But no, I think when I go to these expos, I'm always going to tend to not... Because I am more willing to emulate first to decide if I like a game. Jim bought a game that I love to death, but I wish was a little bit cheaper. So why don't you go and show him what you got. Actually, I'm going to go grab something while you're doing that. So wait to get to the games that you're never going to play.
So do that one last.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. All right, so the games that I got. We'll start, of course, with the one that Brian was talking about, and Contra 3, Alien Wars. Regarded as one of the best Contra games out there, one I never owned. I did emulate it before, so I know it's fun. That bastard. But it came in to be about $40, which wasn't the worst price in the world. So it's actually pretty much fair, and it's one of the cheaper prices that the vendors around there were going for it. So I'm happy with it. Brian, I got one too.
Yeah, mine looks better. You probably can't see. Our buddy Dan, yeah, you're out of focus.
Yeah,
too
nope.
shiny. But he gave us these little buttons for console wars. So, wanted to throw it on.
Nice little extra piece of swag.
Yeah.
Next up, Turtles 2 on the NES, based on the arcade game. It's the game that we all wanted at first, instead of what we got.
Super NES version's better.
Well, yeah.
Just saying.
Just crapping all my dreams, Brian. And I already own that one.
It's good. It's a good game.
Next up.
Yeah, what's next, Jim?
This one I can play. So
Okay.
shut your mouth. So, Galaga 90 on the TurboGrafx CD. Or, see, god damn it. See, you're getting me up. You're making me jump ahead with all your bullshit.
See, he's getting nervous. He's got the tinglies in his tickles.
I always have the tingles in my tickles. But yeah, Galaga 90. A nice update, added a lot of stuff to the core Galaga gameplay. And I wasn't leaving without a TurboGrafx game, basically, so this was one of the fairer priced ones for, like, a quality game. Like, I didn't feel like paying $20 for Keith Courage or shit like that,
Yeah.
so I figured this is a solid buy. Next up, the Collector's Edition, Street Fighter 4. Yeah, I mainly bought it for the toy.
Yeah, this one, Jim already has the game. I have the game. Be honest, we're not going to play it, but I can get getting it for the toy for the collector's edition, and you got it for a reasonable price, so
Yeah, it
it's
was like 30-ish.
so that is something like I would probably go back and buy, like the chainsaw version of Resident Evil 4, like the full collector's edition or shit like that.
Yeah, I did see the Onimusha sword version of Onimusha 3, I think it is,
Yeah,
maybe 2.
So that type of shit I get, even if you already have the game, makes sense, and if you can get for a deal and this one's in really good condition. So
Yeah, it's in great shape, and it comes still with the CD soundtrack, the DVD, the Blu-ray actually, and the hint book and all the other crap.
Yeah.
So it's actually complete and in great shape.
So what's the next one, Jim?
Last but not least, certainly not least, some could call it the main event. It's the TurboGrafx CD port of the original Street Fighter,
Fighting Street.
known as Fighting Street. 2 quick little things about it. 1, game's goddamn terrible. And 2, I don't own a TurboGrafx CD. This is just one that I've always wanted for the collection. I just love Street Fighter that much that I'm just like, this seems like one I should have.
Now, Jim,
Go on.
what'd you pay for that?
It was like about like 40.
So that is $8 more than potentially the best Super NES game that I bought.
I already have it though.
Why don't you stay with me on the
History,
timeline?
Bri. I bought history.
Why don't you stay with me on the timeline?
I bought goddamn history.
And let me see something. I don't see a signature by AVGN on yours.
Yeah, I screwed up here. I should have gone, like, this would have made sense for him to goddamn
Yeah.
sign.
So yeah, that game, funny enough, we've played that on the PlayStation version, and
And I think that's like actually the arcade port too.
yeah, it's a true arcade port. We still have footage for
And this is
whenever-
close. Like, it isn't exactly as pretty.
Whenever
Well,
we get around
pretty.
to doing the Street Fighter series, we still have that footage, but
Maybe I'll get a Turbo Duo by then?
you won't.
Probably not.
Yeah. So yeah,
A little pricey.
it's
There was a TurboGrafx CD system there, but
Jim had to be talked down to restrain himself a little bit.
on certain things, there's a couple Turbo Taps too that I was like, oh, maybe I'll get this. And I was like, when the hell am I ever going to play the TurboGrafx with anyone else?
And the thing, I kept trying to push him on the Vectrex and the Odyssey 2.
I really should have done the Odyssey, goddammit.
I'm just saying.
To add to the more random crap
The
that we review on
random
the
ass
site.
collection he has. So all in all, we also, we really did enjoy going to the arcade and again just play games, and it was kind of fun. Even though a lot of them were games we already played, sitting down and playing. I think next year when we go, we'll definitely try and enter in some tournaments. Jim was really interested in doing the Mario Kart tournament.
It was just getting late at that point.
Yeah, and it's one of those, you really have to pre-plan it, and you you should look at the schedule. Like, we completely winged it, got tickets, didn't know what panels were when, so we'll be better prepared next year. And yeah, it was a fun time.
And actually, hopefully, they kind of make the lines a little more noticeable between panels. Because we were maybe going to check out Blade Blur's thing, and we were in there, and we're like, where's the line? They're like, oh, it's over here. Then we get in line, they're like, oh, no, this is for panel 2. Yours is over there. Yeah. Like, oh, we're over here. Oh, go over here. Like, they're all mushed together.
The organization was a bit of a shit show, but whenever you have something that big, and I'm sure at most conventions, it's like herding cats. You're not going to do it very well, so.
Also, another thing I want to say.
Go ahead.
I want to say by like the 4, 5 o'clock.
Oh, God.
Holy crap, did it start to smell in that convention center. And I mean, that thing went to 10 o'clock, so it must have been ripe in there by the time they were shutting the doors.
Yes.
You would walk, I mean, early on you'd walk by some people and be like, there's a little funk here. But then by the halfway point,
I'm going to reserve my comments and just say I agree with you.
Try to be nice.
I'm trying to be nice here.
I mean, we can say that the clientele in a lot of cases were what you'd expect.
Yep.
And the bathrooms.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Hey, wait. For the fucking bathroom etiquette, there's a few rules guys know. And here's the deal. If there's urinals open and you're waiting, you go to the urinal if you have to go. We were in a line, no lie. It was taking 5 to 10 minutes. If you're a chick and you're listening to this, you might not think that sounds bad.
Somehow the girls never had a line.
Yeah, but there wasn't that many girls there.
There
was, but either way.
There was a 70-30 spread.
Regardless, so there were stalls, urinals. A guy leaving was like, noticed the line was getting crazy. He's like, hey, there's urinals open. Literally, like 4 people in front of us just turned and like looked at us and just didn't do anything. So Jim and I were like, okay, like let's walk to the urinal. As I'm sitting there pissing, I hear someone say, I was next in line technically. And I was like, and I asked Jim, I didn't even turn around. I'm just like, did he just complain that he was next in line? When he turned around and looked at us as in to say like, oh, I have to take a shit or I'm too scared to pee in public, so I'm going to use a stall, which I get, it's a thing. But
I kind of have that.
If you hear that a stall is open, you go. If you really have to go, you fucking go for it. So don't leave a gap. Otherwise, it's your own fault.
And it was almost like there was a force field in there because the second the second you get to the doorway, and they're open doorways. It's not like it's closed off or restricted or anything like that. But it was almost magical how the second you get to the doorway, you could be like this far from it, everything's fine. Go this much in, all of a sudden. Boom! Straight chase. Yeah. Straight poopy.
Yeah. So
also the guy who cosplayed as Ken during the wrestling blew up the goddamn toilet and didn't flush nearly enough.
Yep.
When I went in there after him.
Yep. So good experience. We'll be back next year. We'll probably drink a lot more.
Recommended. We might even try to do what's that other one that's coming up? Like September-ish?
We have a card somewhere.
Yeah, a video game con, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Or another video game con.
So yeah. If you've never been, check it out. It's a better one instead of trying to fly to E3 and shit like that.
Yeah, it's definitely got a more down-home feel. And, I mean, it's been a half hour away from us. And this is our first year getting there, so goddamn real life getting in the way.
Yeah.
Wives and kids.
So, yeah.
But yeah, go there and probably no one recognized us. It actually was funny. Every time we'd get a picture with someone, no, because people recognized Ian. Yeah. Or James, but when we got the picture with Dan, like, people were looking at us like, oh, who are these guys?
Yeah, they're like, who's who, and who, like, should I be taking a picture too? So, it's funny. I think,
Do we whore next year? Cards and swag?
We'll have our merchandise, we'll have our shit. We ain't gonna ever be at the level of, like, James or shit, but still, it's just cool to see, and, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a good time. We'll be there next year,
yeah,
God willing.
All right, so back to our regular topics now. It's a beer and technically a game topic, but Jim added this, and the link will be below.
The only beer topic I found this week.
So a 23-year-old was charged with attempted murder for Somerville shooting following beer pong. And yeah.
South Carolina, because of course it would be.
This guy, Timothy Justin TJ Gainey of Monk's Corner, I don't know where the fuck that is. South Carolina? Yeah, South Carolina, was arrested. So like any game you play,
I almost feel like we can like read the whole thing and it just gets funnier.
Yeah, I don't even want it. Like what when you hear that first line, everything you would expect to be like, how did it get to that point, is what you would expect. So here's the deal: any game, I don't care if you're playing Monopoly, Parcheesi, or whatever the fuck. If you are drinking and you're drunk and you're getting competitive, the tempers will flare. You know, we.
So this guy is probably close to being an incel. So part of what escalated it, besides the obvious alcohol, was they're playing beer pong, and there was a girl there, so they turned into a dare type game where he basically dared her to take her top off. And at first she was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. And then she felt guilty because she has a boyfriend, so she didn't do it.
Uh-oh. Go on. Go on.
God damn it. So he started freaking out. And, like, apparently, like, the girl and her boyfriend were, like, trying to leave, and then Gainey got in his car with some other people and, like, blocked them in and shit like that. And as they were trying to leave and, like, go around the car, like, a gunshot hit the window.
Yeah.
And also, even better part of the story, because South Carolina, the guy who was getting shot at returned fire.
So,
this is great.
Part of me, when I read a story like that or I hear something like this, I have to feel like there's
And
something.
then they got into a car chase.
There has to be something that started. Like there's feelings before this. People knew each other, and shit was just escalating. And the beer pong, if you will, was more or less the catalyst. If they were complete strangers, that's even nuttier. And you know, we've all been drunk and done very stupid shit.
Yeah.
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 But, yeah. So. Moral of the story: if you're gonna drink beer pong or you're going somewhere to drink, don't bring your guns with you.
Yeah, and if you're gonna do a dare game, find a girl who won't welch on the bet. Huh?
Yeah, and if she does, don't get
don't shoot her.
Yeah, don't get that upset.
If she doesn't take her top off, don't chase her.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's really the moral, but that's just a funny goddamn story. So I like that.
People almost died.
Womp womp. See what I did there, Jim?
Oh, I know what you did there.
Topical. All right. So the next, and this is one that
Big topic lately.
a lot of people.
God.
So this topic, Jim. What else would you expect?
Yeah, that's true.
We're professional.
Very professional.
This is a topic almost every YouTuber, every gamer, and even more major newscasts have covered.
They've all given their takes on it.
Yeah, so we're probably a week or two late to this. Surprise, surprise. But, you know, the main tagline is that video game addicts are mentally ill. And this is coming from...
The World Health Organization.
Yeah. So, here's the deal. I've heard a lot of different takes on it, but mine is generally... Yeah, if you are truly addicted. Now, the level of addiction is tough to say. I don't know what without reading the full study and how they conducted it, define addiction. If it's actually fucking with your life and you're not able to maintain your family relationships or work because you need to game so hard, yes, that is an addiction. If you're like Jim and I and you happen to get 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you want to go play a game instead of watching TV, what's the level of addiction? But like anything else, gambling, drugs, sex, whatever you want to call it, of course you can get addicted to shit.
I just love that their like example of this is talking about fucking China, where where if you know anything about Asia with gaming, they're monsters about it. Like people go to gaming houses, or not houses, but gaming bars almost, and they
Gaming
die.
cafes.
Gaming
Yeah.
cafes, that's the word. And they die there because they play for like 4 days straight. So this is the example in the article they give.
How do I frame this without
You could have had a million other things.
there's so many things I want to say, but I'm trying not to frame it the incorrect way. Like, if you're going to use an example, don't use the low-hanging fruit as the example. Obviously, Asia and China, I don't know if they have it. I know, South Korea has those... the
StarCraft tournaments.
Yeah, those, like, nationally... It's a sport. It's a national sport. It's, like, televised.
It's better than goddamn soccer. Fuck the World Cup, am I right?
Jim, we're going to get 2 dislikes for that.
We get 2 dislikes anyway.
But no, that's like whatever. Like obviously that culture in particular is a little more involved into video gaming, and it's probably because it's where a lot of video games are developed or near where video games are developed.
I blame the body pillows.
I'm reaching here, but at the end of the day, yeah, it's a problem, but if they weren't addicted to video games, they'd be addicted to something else. Like addictive personalities. If you have a buddy who's an alcoholic and he tries to stop, all of a sudden he's going to pick up drinking Monsters or something else or smoking more. Like every time someone's an addict, they go just shift it. Like I always see people who stop smoking and they're drinking coffees like goddamn hotcakes. So, yeah. So that's my point. Like, of course there's a mental illness, but why did they feel the need to like really call out video games? You could say about anything.
Well, it's actually kind of a funny thing about this. At my work, we had almost like a gun crisis safety seminar about a month or 2 back. And the person who was there was making the argument that they saw a spike in high school-related gun crimes since 1975. And they're like, what came out in 1975? And that's like shortly after Pong-ish, basically. And it was actually funny because we were like, are you really putting this on fucking Pong?
Oh, Jesus.
And they made the argument of like, it's desensitizing you to just violence in general.
That's someone looking for a correlation that doesn't exist. That just, what are other factors that happen around that timeline?
When there's a billion the other things that are just like, they're not correlated.
Yeah, it's like, hey, also at that time, after civil rights and women's rights and everything else, there was a spike in populations in general, so now you have more people, so now you're going to have more incidents. And the availability of guns at that time spiked as well, because it was right after Vietnam, so you had an influx of military weapons being available to the public. But yeah, I'm sure it's Pong.
Yeah, no, it's not the opiate explosion in this country.
No, it's not anything else, but Pong. Yeah, that's the shit. So that's my point. So whenever I see these things, you always got to take it with a bit of salt. You have to consider it is a problem for some people. Honestly, Jim and I, of all of our friends, we were probably the most into games, and neither of us, I've gone weeks without, like, I don't ever be like, oh my God, I'm like itching, I need to play a game.
Yeah.
We play when we can, and yeah, it sucks. I mean, if you do know anyone who has a problem, then...
Like, there are definite people who spend way too much time, and it's all they do.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. That's an addiction. And if you have an addictive personality, then it can get you.
I think the number one thing, more and more people, way more than just traditional console-based or even PC-based video games, fucking social media. Just being on your phone. And me and Jim had this conversation. How many of you out there, if you go and sit down on your toilet and you forgot your phone, oh my God, how much does that like ruin your time sitting down?
And I'm unfortunately that kind of dick, and I know it's a problem, but
yeah.
I'm that dick who'll be like, we're all hanging out, all a bunch of friends and shit like that, and we're all having a conversation. I'm just sitting in the corner dicking on my phone.
The number of times Jim and I have been recording podcasts, recording footage, or actively playing a game to review, and in between something, he's sitting on his phone clashing or trying to catch Pokemon. Like, Jim is definitely, to a level, on the spectrum.
No, I have an addiction to my phone.
He has an addiction to
my
phone.
wife yells at me constantly about being rude.
And what's funny is, I mean, literally throughout all of college, he was the one still with the old-ass flip phone.
That's why I didn't fucking want it.
So
I was like, keep me in the Stone Age. And no, my wife, then girlfriend, was like, you have a shitty phone. You should probably get an iPhone. You get a phone so we can do FaceTime with each other.
So really, it's her fault.
Yeah, see? This is what you get.
So yeah, that's one of those situations where...
You know what you got into.
Most people really, they do have issues, and the addictions are definitely much more, I think, cell phone related. I would love to see a study done, just test yourself. If you're someone listening, try to go 3 days without touching your phone.
Oh.
Or like keep it on you and only answer it if you have a call or an important text, not like, a buddy sending you a stupid meme, like a legit...
Or an Aerodactyl's around.
Yeah. God damn it. So... Yeah, I'm sure more of these studies will continue to come out, and...
It's not a surprise to see something like this?
No, nothing at all, but... Yeah, somebody had to get paid to do something.
Very true.
Gotta justify those jobs, Jim.
Can't lie there.
Alright, so what's this next topic you put up?
Alright, GameStop.
Interesting.
Nope. God, fucking... No, go. Fucking...
Alright,
ads.
so
Ads.
I'll
Why do I not prepare?
GameStop is seeking a buyer, and this article claims it could reshape console gaming. Now, I'll be honest. When it comes to a game store, GameStop is the one you think of, especially for new games, if you're buying them hard copy. Jim and I have talked on this podcast multiple times. Everything tends to be leaning towards more of a digital, just download it. And now with the newer consoles, when you have to buy a physical copy and then still download it, part of you juggles the idea of, do you want the hard copy, or is it even worth it to go to a store when you can download it right from your house? And the convenience of not walking in, driving, waiting in line, talking to some weirdo who's gonna, try and sell you or get you to pre-sale or pre-order a game. But regardless, GameStop for guys like Jim and I, it's the number one spot where we go if games are on sale. We go to that friggin' $10 or $20 or less bin.
If you're looking to fill out generation before consoles,
yeah,
amazing.
And they introduced, obviously, I actually got Super Mario Brothers 3 and Castlevania 2 from there when they implemented that whole, what was the word?
It's whatever their retro gaming program is. And the thing about that kind of sucks is, besides all the horror stories about, swapped cards and repros and shit like that, is not many brick and mortar stores actually do it.
No.
I knew of one in our area that actually sold retro, and even they stopped recently.
And that's one of those things.
Mostly it's just an online service kind of deal.
I feel, at least in the Philly market, there's not, even in Philly, Bucks County, the places Jim and I get games will be GameStop. We have a few other local that have reused games, but not dedicated, singular,
They're like hobby shops almost.
Yeah. And then, honestly, Goodwill. We see whatever's available at those or thrift shops.
Even though Goodwill's, you got to get lucky anymore.
Yeah.
Because they put shit on their online store too.
Yeah. If GameStop is looking for a buyer, makes sense.
Their stock's down 32% in the last fiscal year. They took a beating.
And we've seen
they've gone through a couple CEOs.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of YouTubers covering this. That the trend of when they took on that retro thing, for whatever reason, they've been trying to push it. But I think this is just going back to what we said multiple times. With digital media taking a rise, obviously brick and mortar is going to take a fall. I'm just curious if the same correlation happens with every other true brick and mortar game store, strictly game store. And we don't know enough around us to take a gauge. But Ian from Too Many Games, for Luna Games, we've heard him talk about it, and
their money comes from retro. They only stock very few copies of new games because they don't make money off it.
And
even GameStop makes all its money off used games.
I've never been the type. I don't ever think of Best Buy or Walmart as my gaming shop. But
apparently, Best Buy had a good system for a couple of years. They had a reward system.
I still know tons of people who go and get it, but it's one of those deals. Especially think of things like Amazon, where you can get up to 20% off or some crazy amount if you are willing to get just through Amazon. Sure, you gotta wait a couple days past when it's initially released. So I think there's just more options out there. The thing I'd be saddest about, and I know we don't even play them as much, but those Call of Duty releases.
Yeah.
Us, our friend, Chris, and a few others, they sprinkle in and out. But the three of us, for sure, every year, it's just a matter of that's what we do every year.
He even flew in from Seattle.
Yeah. It's one of those deals. It's it's not even so much about the game. We drink before, go bowling, do whatever, hang out, go to a bar. And then we get the game and stay up all night playing. It's a stupid excuse to hang out, but at this point, since it is a tradition, it's something we're going to keep doing as long as we can.
Yep.
And even though they've changed the day now multiple times on us.
Yes. Oh, God, it used to be... I get off for...
Election Day.
Election Day, yeah. I get off for Election Day, and... for a while, for years, it was the night before Election Day, so I'm sweet, I'm off anyway. I'm staying up all night. Now I got to use a goddamn day.
Yeah, but...
and also, I think there's also some other factors, too. If you think about the games that are popular with, the young kids these days. If you're around kids who are, 10 and younger, they're not going to GameStop.
No.
They'll just buy a game off the store digitally and ask for forgiveness later, basically.
It's usually
and then Fortnite's fucking free,
yeah.
So that's the biggest game in the world right now.
Mid-20s to older is really the GameStop crowd. But even that group, once again, GameStop was great for the last Xbox 360, PS3, and if you need a brand new game. But like I said, there's so many new options. Of course this shit's going to happen.
And I mean, it competes against itself because in store they sell download keys.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's a thing that they probably have to do, but they're selling consoles in store that have an online store that promotes not going to the brick and mortar store to buy a used game.
Yeah.
So it's a dying. Obviously, there's a shitload of horror stories about GameStop, and they don't have the best reputation anyway. And I know most people aren't going to be sad when it's gone, but it's still the kind of thing where it's like it's just not a viable model in this day and age.
Yeah.
The only game stores that will survive probably are the hobby retro shops.
I was sad when EB Games went.
I loved EB because they kept all different generations in there.
So some people are like clamoring.
I think it's still in Canada too.
Probably, but it's fucking Canada.
Well, Canada's always 20 years behind. So.
But no, the
Sorry,
real
Zots.
thing is it just sucks. I know some people are clamoring like they love to see this fall because, especially GameStop, they fuck you so hard when it comes to rebuying off you. And there's the meme out there right now. It's like, oh, I hear you're looking to sell GameStop. I'll give you $740 for it.
Yeah.
We get it. But now if that goes, I'm probably my days of buying hard actual physical games, if it isn't a true retro game, is pretty much going to go out the window.
Yeah, I mean, I don't buy many new games as is anymore, so.
Oh, I know.
But I may, my 1 or 2 a year that I get, I'll still go to a mom and pop and be like, hey, do you have this? And if it's new, they'll be like, yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
I may, even though at this point, fucking buying a physical copy of a new game's pointless because it's really just a shelf case. Because the disc, there's nothing on there. It's just a CD key. It's a download case.
It's a paperweight. So
yeah, it's a paperweight that's more inconvenient because you have to
download it.
You have to put it in your console to still. You have to still swap out games for something that's all digitally downloaded.
Some would say that's why the 360 PS3 was the last great generation.
It probably will be. There's great games that came out this generation.
Oh, no. That's not saying that there aren't.
As far as
games.
actual home consoles go.
Yeah, when you look back in time, I think when everything goes digital, it'll be like, God damn, remember when you just bought a CD? You didn't need to buy a shit ton of extra DLC. Shit was packed on the CD. Not saying it didn't happen in 360 and PS3 generation.
That's where it blew up.
That's where it grew, but I think that those first couple games were still pretty heavy. PS2 was still, to me, the greatest console for full content on a disc, of any game system generation, if you will.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, so let us know. Are you happy? Are you sad? Do you not give a shit?
Let us know in the comments.
Absolutely. This next one is from our buddy Kit, and it states, games that look better now than back when it was released. So you're gonna have to explain that one to me.
All right, so I know it's kind of tough to word correctly, but what games do you think? I don't word, but maybe I do word. But yeah, so basically it's almost thinking about games that the art style when it was released, people were like, what is this crap? Or, oh, this game looks like shit. But then when you compare it now to, other games of its time, it actually holds up way better. And I think the most famous reason that I can think of with this would be Zelda Wind Waker. Because when it came out...
shading.
Yeah. When it came out, people were like, oh, what's this kiddie cartoon bullshit? It looks like crap. Why doesn't it look real like Grand Theft Auto? And then you look at Grand Theft Auto games from that era now, and they're all blocky pieces of crap with, awful motion blur that gets me sick. Whereas the cel-shaded games look crisp. Or that Superman game from on the PS2 that looks amazing and out of the cartoon.
Yeah.
Games like that, those are the ones that hold up. Holy shit, how did this look so good? Or Jet Grind Radio from the Dreamcast era.
Mm-hmm. So in general, all right. So the way that's put, most 8-bit and 16-bit games have aged amazingly because people instinctually now at this point recognize the limit of those systems, and you love the simplicity of what could be developed. Yet still today, RPG Maker, especially people making a lot of RPGs off their PCs right now, you're still using basically 16-bit characters and 8-bit characters, and you're figuring out how to cel shade and all that, and you realize the complexity and what can be done. So when you see a game like Chrono Trigger or some of those other amazing games on the Super NES, you realize there is a high level of art, but they're just working within. Whereas like PS1, to a degree, N64, like those games were trying to get that next gap of, oh, we're going to try to start looking more realistic, and they aged a little worse. People aren't as forgiving, at least right now. Like, you look at a PS1 game, you're like, ooh, like,
yep.
My favorite game, Resident Evil, you're still going to look at it and be like, blocky as shit, looks terrible. But at the time, the fact that it was 3D models, like, you couldn't believe, you're like, holy shit. So 16-bit, 8-bit games will always be what look the best, and styles like the games you just mentioned are probably the best examples of ones that the art style came out. But one game I'll throw in there from that generation that I think people didn't dislike back then, but I think still hold up, is Mortal Kombat. The photorealistic, the fact that they did that back then and pulled it off fairly flawlessly, I'll say.
All right.
Like, if you're going for realistic, but then you still want to see a dude get his head decapitated, like, that's goddamn impressive. Everything else is just a matter of the style with which the game is created.
Yeah, even going back to the cell shaded thing, like, if you want to see a drastic difference in what holds up and what doesn't, go, I know you're going to hate me for this example, but go to the Dragon Ball Z Budokai series. And if you look at Budokai 1,
Doesn't hold up.
Budokai 1 does not hold up because it's just 3D models. It doesn't look... Don't you dare. Now, it doesn't look terrible, per se, but it's blocky mess, kind of. Where if you look at Budokai 2, beautiful cell shading, nice fluid animation, looks like the cartoon in the generation, holds up pretty well. And another son of a bitch. Another one that I'll say, too, is actually 2D games from the PS1 like generation. Because,
Castlevania.
especially in North America, no one wanted to see 2D.
Yeah.
Like, when a 2D game came out, we're like, why? This is old. No one wants to see this. This looks like crap. Give us 3D models. Give us WCW vs. the World.
Yeah.
So, looking back now, games like Marvel Superheroes or some weird Japanese games or Symphony of the Night,
Yeah.
they look amazing and they still hold up. Where all the 3D model games from back then, a little rough.
Yeah, and that's I find... You want to maximize the potential of your console, but also, just, Castlevania is a perfect example. It was not maximizing the PS by any stretch of the imagination.
Fucking long load times, maybe it was.
Yeah, well, but I'm just saying, like, of what you would expect. Like, I want to see a 3D game. What's this 2D shit?
Right.
But games like Fire Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
They've always kind of had that look, and even the newest one, the Returns, or what is it? Is it Returns?
Fire Pro World, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That still has that same kind of look from the PS2 era, and
It's timeless.
It looks better, but people care more about the gameplay. What I will say is currently now, a lot of games are coming out that try to separate themselves from the crowd with such a unique style. I'm playing through the platformer Limbo right now. Game I always liked. It's black and white with a grayscale in between, and it's done so well, so the graphics are, what you would consider simplistic in coloring, but it still sets the atmosphere in such a goddamn crazy way. Considering that's a game that came out, let's say 3 years before, like, Alien Isolation, and you look at those two side by side, you're like, what the hell? They both look amazing.
Yeah, anything that's really stylized always seems to hold up well, too. Like,
Charlie Murder.
Yeah, Charlie Murder, or... Yeah, Charlie Murder's a good example, too.
Yeah, basically, anything that's on a 2D realm...
I just had a good example on the tip of my tongue, and I can't fucking remember
that's why games like Mortal Kombat realize the value.
Oh, Super High. Like, Super High's very stylized.
Yeah.
It's simplistic, and it's, like, almost unrendered, 3D models that do look blocky.
Yeah. But it's colorful and goofy.
Right, and it's purposely like that, so... You can't go back and be like, oh, this looks shit compared to its generation, because it's supposed to be like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's an interesting topic. I honestly, like I said, we tend to look at it right before, so wish I had the time to dig a little more, but my answer in general, 8 to 16-bit games will always hold up, no matter how people thought they looked back then when they compared them to other games.
Yep, and my answer is cell shading.
Of course. All right, next one. we didn't want to touch any more on the E3 stuff, and I know it technically didn't come out. But a game Jim and I are both went 6 to midnight for, which is the RE2 remake. And Jim, just so you know, that means Resident Evil 2. Jim and I talked,
I'm trying to think of other things to do with RE2, and it's just going over the line, so I'm just not going to say it.
So basically, Jim and I talked.
Raping Eskimos, too.
Thank you, Jim.
There we go. That's an example.
Aren't they Inuits? I don't know the right term.
I don't know.
Either way, Jim and I, a lot of people tend to agree. More modern fans think Resident Evil 4 is the best game. Jim and I love the original trilogy, if you will, and even Code Veronica, because that maintained the horror. RE2, if you compare it to even 1 and 3, was the more complete, deeper game experience, and in all reality, it's probably the best of those 3. Seeing what I've seen from the trailer, it looks awesome. What I love is...
Did you see the gameplay reveal?
Yeah. The game looks outstanding, and ironically, I got my hair cut today, and the chick cutting my hair, we got into a 10-minute conversation about this trailer and Resident Evil 2.
Probably girls don't game.
Damn it, Jim.
2 in a row. 2 podcasts in a row.
So, obviously, people have been clamoring for this goddamn remake for, as soon as they did the first Resident Evil remake, they're like, okay, now do it for 2. The first Resident Evil remake is still right next to the original game. I can't ever say which one I like more. I hope they throw a little bit of extra added gameplay and some new elements from the original game, but maintain that core, like going, if you play with Claire A, then you would get Leon B, and like do that reversal, because that was one of the things that made that game so much more deeper, because you could play multiple times.
Right.
Yes.
Current gen tofu.
God damn it. We don't need that.
Yes, we do. Yes, we fucking do.
You mean the vegan option?
Yeah. But seriously, like, it's almost crazy how, like, I'm almost going to compare it to the first remake on the GameCube. Like, the way that looked compared to the old ones. Like, the leap in technology. Like, it's hard for me this day and age to be really impressed by, like, good graphics in a game. But, like, you look at the lighting and just, like, the overall, like, these zombies are fucking scary.
Yeah.
And it's, like, dark, but, like, purposely dark. And it just gives you this mood of, like, even watching the trailer, you're like, holy crap.
Like, the shit got real. Yeah, Resident Evil Remake is a perfect example. They HD'd it for the Xbox and...
GameCube.
No. I'm saying they GameCubed it.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
that was only 480, but then they 1080 HD'd it for the Xbox.
Right.
And I have every version of that remake. And I'll tell you right now, that's a game you don't really need to touch, because that HD remake still holds up today. Like, you don't need to touch it. So RE2, this remake, I'm so excited. And what I really hope, you know what? Throw us a RE3 remake. Throw us a Code Veronica remake. Redo that old series. RE7, I absolutely loved, and keep it going in that direction of maintaining horror. Just kind of forget 5 and 6.
Yeah.
But, we're super excited, and of any, like...
Brian, what was that tactical team-based Resident Evil game?
Jim, there was like 17 of those.
There was all the first-person shooters.
There was the Survivor.
Outbreak, those were awful.
Yeah, the Outbreak games. There was the tactical game. There were so many of these, like, spin-off ones.
Dead Aim.
So, yeah, this will be a game for absolutely goddamn sure. I'm gonna yell at Jim if he doesn't get. And
like you did with 7?
We're gonna review it. I'm gonna stream it because I friggin' love Resident Evil. So we'd love to hear your guys' take on it. But what can you say other than it looks amazing? I'd love to hear someone who says, like, no, we shouldn't have touched it.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised.
Yeah. All right, Jim. So this next topic.
Yeah, this one's coming from you off the top of your little tippy head.
I just thought of it earlier because I have a very specific moment I thought of, and I wanted to turn this into a bit, if you will.
All right.
We've talked about some gaming memories in the past, and I figured let's make this a reoccurring bit, like some of our other ones.
None that we're doing this week again.
So I'll throw it to you. I'll say Mayan, and then hopefully you can name one.
Say Mayan?
Yeah.
Mayan?
What, you don't like the Mayans?
Not particularly. If they were great, they'd still be around.
You're more of an Aztec guy?
Well, they suck too.
Damn it. All right, so name a time that you laughed inappropriately from a game. And what I mean by that is, like, you're playing a game, something happens, maybe you killed someone or something that, like, wasn't particularly meant to be funny, but you found yourself laughing and you kind of maybe even felt like shit for it afterwards. I've thought of a few examples. Obviously, there's tons of game out there that they throw things in there for humor on purpose. But one thing that made me laugh, and I still feel bad for, but it's because it came out left field, is I can distinctly remember the first time I played Double Dragon. And that opening screen, that guy walks up, just punches a chick in the stomach, throws it on his shoulder, and walks up. I'm like,
Penny.
This is Nintendo. You know, I just got done playing Super Mario Brothers. Like, I played all these innocent children's game, and then here's a game where this dude just comes up, hits a chick in the stomach, and just throws her over her shoulder and, like, takes it. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I couldn't believe what I just saw. And I laughed because of how just and even to this day, I still watch it, and I'm like, dear God, like, Nintendo, like, well, it's not Nintendo, it's Konami, but still, you get my point. It's...
I don't think it was Konami.
No, not... Wait.
Was it Irem?
No, it's Double Dragon. This is embarrassing. Hold on.
Was it Namco?
This is bad.
This is some good old-fashioned dead air right here.
Yeah. Technos.
Oh, Technos. Okay.
Okay. For some reason, I always thought Konami with those guys. But either way, seeing that was, yeah, it was shocking, made me laugh. It's a hell of a reason to have, like, you know, a lot of Nintendo games, the story was always very loose to begin with. Like, think like Kung Fu, like, you never got a story, you just beat up everyone, you're trying to save your love.
Right.
This is that, but now you get to see, like, oh, dude just punched my chick and took her.
It's a good way to build up a bad guy.
It's another similar situation, although I feel like this was done for the same reason. Think Ghosts and Goblins. You're basically naked with your chick in a graveyard, and a devil comes and just steals her. Like, that's kind of funny.
Yep.
Wasn't fully meant to be funny, but yeah.
Brian, would you say the goal of the game is to not be cucked by Satan?
I'd say, yeah. Yep.
I didn't have a follow-up to that.
I guess in Double Dragon, you're just hoping Bobo doesn't get to her first. Yeah. So now, Jim, I'm throwing it to you.
Ah, God.
I'm putting the gauntlet
See, this
down.
is one where I wish I had some time to prep for this one, but I think off the top of my head, like, I can't think of a specific...
Like, is there ever a time, like, a character died that was so ridiculous or something happened that you were just like, holy shit?
You know, I think it would be more unintentional, but one of the beautiful things about Bethesda games, like their 3D games, is every once in a while, well, more than that, the physics can just go wild on you. Mm-hmm. So there can be some characters in the game, and things will happen. Maybe you kill them off, and maybe they just go flying all over the goddamn place. Like, you'll have, like, little kids flying all over walls and their heads exploding and shit like that. Just, like, stuff that shouldn't be happening, but it's still freaking hilarious.
Good old glitches always happen. I'm trying to think more for you. Scripted should have happened in the game. It happened. They weren't intentional for you to laugh at, but you were like, what the hell?
Okay, all right. I have one. So, most famous scene in Final Fantasy VII when... I see, this is going to be bad because I only played it for a couple hours. I think her name's Aeris, when she gets killed by Sephiroth. So, for everyone else in the world, you're like, I've been with this character for 47 hours. Oh, her fucking flower garden, what'll happen to the flowers? I would go over to my best friend's house growing up, and I'd go over and be like, hey, you want to hang out? And he'd be like, sure. And I'd get there, he would just be playing Final Fantasy VII. And this would go on for weeks on end. And I'll just be sitting there with his game gear or my dick in my hand, and he would just be like, we'd have some small talk, and he'd go back to playing Final Fantasy VII. So, when Aeris died, he got all upset, and I went, good, fuck that bitch.
All right. So, I guess that's...
So, out of goddamn spite, good old-fashioned spite, every time Aeris dies, I smile.
So, there you go. We want to hear your guys' gaming memories of a similar situation. What something wasn't meant to be funny, wasn't written, but you still laughed your ass off. So let us know. All right, so our final topic, and it's topical. It was from E3 once again, but it's something we care about. And once again, I thought, so I'll throw my 2 cents out there. and see what you think.
Yeah.
The new Smash Brothers game is getting a ton of hype. It's going to have every character that's ever been in there. They're going to potentially or definitely confirm Ridley's in there.
Yeah, I think the Splatoon, Squid Kids, and I think Ridley were the 2 new announcements, on top of having every single character ever released.
So that got me thinking, what characters would I like to see in that? Now, granted, I have very little experience with any of the new ones. I've maybe played each one like just a hair, but I've been maintaining, like, looking up what characters they have. And a few that puzzled me, and we don't need to get into, like, oh, obviously they can't get the license. I'm just talking about what would make sense to be in the game. So I have a few that, right off the top of my head, I thought, like, why the fuck haven't they never been in there? And the first one is Simon Belmont, Trevor Belmont, anyone from Castlevania, obviously, Alucard. I don't care. You should have Castlevania on there.
Yeah, I know they wound up in, like, some... It might have just been made by Konami with all their characters.
Yeah.
Like a Konami-only Smash rip-off style that was only in Japan. On the
I know,
PS2.
but like... Once
but I know what you mean.
Yeah. So, I did read something that there's a rumor that one of those might be in this game, too. And it might be a late reveal. If it is, that absolutely makes sense. Because when I think... when I think old school Nintendo, NES, Super NES, all those... I don't necessarily always separate the companies like Konami versus Nintendo versus Capcom. I just think characters, and Castlevania is always one I associate. So that, one or both the dudes from Contra.
Yeah.
Like, I would fucking love to see that. Like, I would love to see some spread shot on that on those goddamn maps. And then the other ones, I think it should be easy enough. And this is a combo, Double Dragon and Battletoads. It's, once again, Battletoads are Konami, right?
Yeah.
So, I know Konami has a shit record with them, but I would love to see them. And Double Dragon, like, you get those guys in there they're fighting guys already. Do what you gotta do, Nintendo. Like, people, I think, would enjoy that. If you have Ryu and all these, you had... My biggest thing with Konami that I can't buy, you can't get these other characters I just named. You have Snake.
Yeah.
You can get these other guys.
They had Sonic before.
So, yeah, and they're going to have them again. So, do what you need to do. Those are characters I think only make sense to be in there.
Yeah.
So, who are some that you think should, not necessarily like your ideal, but like you think just should be in there?
Here's one I got for you. Toad. All this time, Toad's been like, Peach will like whip him out and like smack you with him, basically. Why can't Toad be his own character? Make it be tiny. Make it be like what Servbot is in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Like, that tiny little annoying character that like won't hit you for a lot, but you can do some crazy over-the-top moves with him.
Could be sucks. Other than being the fastest guy in Mario Kart.
Maybe you can get in the cart and drive over you. Maybe that can be his final smash. Maybe go fuck yourself.
All right.
So I think Toad would be a good one there. Metroid I don't know enough about.
If you wanted to dip your toes, just dip them into N64 territory. I was going to say James Bond from N64 GoldenEye or Conker.
Yeah, I mean, Banjo, obviously.
Yeah.
Good luck getting anything from Rare, but
I
like
know,
you said,
but like I said, you think iconic Nintendo characters. I don't need Meta Knight. I don't need the fucking Ice Climbers. And I know that disappoints a lot of people.
No one needs the Ice Climbers.
But
no one likes the Ice Climbers.
You don't even need your favorite, Game & Watch.
I like Game & Watch.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, Nintendo. Go ahead.
Idea. Final boss character. You know how it's always Master Hand or Crazy Hand or shit like that?
Let me guess. From Star Fox?
No, stupid.
Oh.
Why not the Power Glove? Wouldn't that make perfect sense as a replacement for one of them?
Yeah, I mean, or just throw it on the hand.
Give it some different shit.
No, that would, or Rob the Robot.
Rob's already in it.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, Power Glove would make sense. I'll give you that. Or the trackball.
Oh, fucking it.
I mean,
what about the marble from Marble Madness? Why isn't that a hero?
I mean, just the fact that they have the dog and the duck hunt, dog.
Yeah.
Like, and the Wii Fit model, like, that pisses me off.
Or like the general like Wii amiibo.
Oh, the Meebos and all that shit.
Yeah.
I get it. You gotta spend
you
your
can make
budget.
a character out of goddamn anything.
Gotta spend your but like I don't know. When I think Nintendo, I think it's really a shame the ones I named.
Brian, I'm almost surprised here that you didn't say your Jake Armitage from Shadowrun on the Super NES.
Nah, because Shadowrun's a terrible series to begin.
Well, I think this is a good time to end this episode.
I mean, in general, we've already scored it. You can go see the scores right here. That the Super NES is better.
Bias.
How is it biased?
Bias.
You scored it the same as me.
Bullshit.
You scored it like me.
Because you raped the Genesis one. That's why.
I scored it the same as you.
No, you fucking did. Lies.
Chip, when you stack it up side by side, you just
Lies and slander.
You realize that you're like, oh man, that extra sound card in the Super NES.
I'm just going to go through keywords every single conversation. Oh, this word didn't work. Let me try the next word.
Oh, I'm overhead. I'm just going to keep walking overhead. Oh, this bar looks like that bar. Oh, this dragon can't be fully articulated because the Genesis can't handle it.
Because it was too big of a game before then with your linear bullcrap.
Listen, don't be
This
hating.
fight will not die.
Don't be hating. But yeah, so we would love to hear who else you guys think. I even think, you know what? Like, do an exclusive, and I don't know how you do it. Do like the black box games. Like, do like Excite Bike. Like, maybe have one character that somehow represents all those, like, miscellaneous. Don't create them all. Go on.
You need slalom in there.
I would take that.
Ass.
I would.
You need that ass.
The Bret Hart.
The Bret Hart ass.
Yeah. I would take that.
Shoves one of his skis in your pee hole. Final smash.
I don't think they would go that descriptive.
Look, Brian, they're still beating women in Double Dragon, so I think they can go for that. All right.
Yeah.
They have a weird gray area.
So we'll see what Smash Brothers. I'm really curious to see if that rumor. When I thought about this, I wanted to make sure none of those were announced. And like you said, I saw some things that said Simon or Trevor might be announced. To me, I guess Simon makes the most sense from the first game. However, Alucard is probably better well known because of Symphony and the other. And
what is it? Richter from Dracula X, or Rondo of Blood, whatever you want to call it.
So, yeah, I would love to see what they come out with.
Right, maybe they can get that one from Castlevania 64, and he can be like whippy, whippy,
I think
whippy.
His name's Reinhard, and
Whippy.
no, they can.
Whippy, whippy. Ow!
So, let us know what you think. As a general note, if you ever have questions or things you want to hear us talk about, comment below, email us, send us something on Twitter, our website. We're available. We have all the links below. And yeah, Jim, what'd you think of this Nihilist Stout?
It was damn good.
Yeah.
Like, very full mouth flavor, but for 80 IBUs, it was smooth.
Yeah, and it leaves a good, it's like, your mouth is like dry almost.
Yeah. It's like weirdly dry. It's like almost, it doesn't even feel like it's got a film to it. It's weird to describe almost.
Delicious, like you said.
Strong aroma.
Easily the best beer from Sly Fox. Now, granted,
not a lot of lacing either on the glass at all.
Once again, we're doing the barrel aged. The regular one, I might actually prefer more because you get a little more of this true flavor. Versus this, you get that oak and a little bit more alcohol. But either way, try it out if you never have.
What kind of barrels? Is it like bourbon barrels or just like general
I think
barrels?
it's just general whiskey, like oak barrels.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Good beer, though.
Other than that, guys, cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for watching.